Welcome, horse racing fans. The most exciting 2 minutes in sports and the first Saturday in May. We're getting closer to the 2022 Kentucky Derby. And good evening. It's welcome to the Big Chat, the first of hopefully a few pre-Kentucky Derby chat sessions. Tonight, we're kind of just going to meet the contenders. I think a lot of times people kind of miss out on some of the fun of handicapping the Kentucky Derby. It's a once-a-year race with a big handle. Lots of money in the pools, a big day of racing on Friday with the Kentucky Oaks, followed by a big day of racing. 14 races on that Saturday card of Churchill Downs. Pack a lunch. Tonight, we're going to take a look at the all 20 horses, kind of just get some of my preliminary thoughts on how I will be looking at this Kentucky Derby field of 2022. I think overall, I think a lot of people have kind of settled on maybe 12 or 13 horses that can win this Kentucky Derby without kind of going too deep into the toolbox. But I do think there's going to be 4 or 5 horses that are definitely wagered on more than others. So if you have a question or a comment, make sure to leave that. We start off with a look at the Kentucky Derby leaderboard. Of course, Epicenter, he worked out on Saturday. Zandon went also for 4 furlongs. That was for trainer Chad Brown. And when you take a look at White Abarrio, he's still at Gulfstream Park. Mo Donegal has arrived at Churchill Downs for Todd Pletcher. And then that bottom 10 added to the list again this week was Classic Causeway. They announced on Monday they are going to run in the Kentucky Derby. That adds a little bit of speed, and that's definitely going to be a part of the handicapping factor of this 2022 Kentucky Derby. And remember, as we continue along with some of the preliminary thoughts here, if you have a comment or a question. All right, we've already got a Zandon fan on here, and of course Epicenter. But let's take a look at these Derby horses one by one. We're going to go in points order, and I wanted to talk about Epicenter right away because I think the key factor with Epicenter is going to be how well he rates in the Kentucky Derby. So, and I think why that's going to be important is because a lot of people think that in his most recent race, he came from 3rd place, but the fractions were a little bit on the moderate side for the 4 furlong call. They did speed it up to a 111.3 and a 136 flat for the mile, but Epicenter was a little bit rank in that race, the Louisiana Derby. I kind of have mixed feelings. That mile and 3/16 is a little bit too much racing. He ran a mile and an 1/8 in the Risen Star. He ran a mile and a 16th in the Lecomte Stakes. He's been up on near the pace. If you look, 5 of the 6 races, he's been leading by 3 lengths, 4 lengths, and 2 lengths. And now he's got to face more quality speed in the Kentucky Derby. Now for Zandon, when you look at his past performances, he's kind of reverted to being a closer. The last 2 races, both his starts as a 3-year-old, Zandon coming from off the pace. He did have a slow start in the Risen Star. That's what I noticed. He also went wider than Smile Happy in that race. So I think a lot of people kind of thought Zandon might be able to turn the tables on Smile Happy in the Bluegrass Stakes. And that's kind of the way it played out. Meanwhile, there's still some people that think his Remsen Stakes near the wire, when he kind of made that move down the stretch to take the lead, he got run down late by Mo Donegal, but a lot of people thought after the inquiry, maybe Zandon was bumped right near the finish line and could have been put up. So not sure about that. Now, Tanya has a question. Who do you think will be the leader at the quarter pole? And that is going to be part of my handicapping. If I knew that answer, Tanya, I wouldn't be a random guy on the internet doing Kentucky Derby preview shows, but I'll give you some of my thoughts. I do think the leaders at the quarter pole, which to me is just before the turn, that is kind of right where that quarter pole is. I think you're going to have 3 or 4 horses. I think you're going to have Messier. I think you're going to have Epicenter. And then I think you're also going to probably have Simplification. I think Simplification is going to do his running near the pace in the Kentucky Derby. So Tanya, that's who I think is going to be near the lead at the quarter pole. White Abarrio, my big question about him is his speed figure in the Florida Derby. Now, the final quarter of a mile was not that fast, and the last 3 furlongs were very slow compared to some of the other races. So that's my big question mark on White Abarrio, but he's won 4 races at Gulfstream Park. They're keeping him in Florida, training down there all the way until we get closer to the Kentucky Derby. Now, when you look at Mo Donegal, that stretch run of the Wood Memorial, very strong for Mo Donegal. Couple of factors with him, his speed figure jump. He went to a 111 on the Brisnet scale, a very high Beyer speed figure. And the track surface was fast that day. All winter long, the Aqueduct Racing surface was going to be a little bit on the slow side. And all of a sudden, I don't know if they took away certain dirt or they scraped off all of the sand. But that day, you had Speaker's Corner running a fast time. The Gazelle was running a fast time. And then you also had the Wood Memorial. And now, on the other hand, the pace was pretty hot, but they did come home fast as well. So far, it looks like early voting will not be going to the Kentucky Derby. Yes, Ronnie Bravo, Classic Causeway is in the Derby. We'll take a look at him. Now, Tiz the Bomb, I do want to mention him because of his speed the last race. A lot of people are kind of throwing out Tiz the Bomb because he did that on the synthetic surface. But as one who watched Animal Kingdom win the Derby on a synthetic to dirt switch, I'm always got to be leery of those horses going synthetic to dirt. Of course, that puts him right up there with Taiba, who ran a 111 in the Santa Anita Derby, and also early voting, who's not going to be running in the race. But Messier, look at that. If you like Taiba, you kind of have to look at Messier. I am a big fan. Normally, 2 of those top 4 or 5 finishers come out of the same race. What happens is there just seems to be a key race. And will that key race be the Risen Star or the Louisiana Derby with Zozos and Epicenter? Will it be the Florida Derby with Charge It and White Abarrio? Will it be the Keeneland race with Smile Happy and Zandon? And I go all the way back to the Funny Side days when you had a reversal there, when Funny Side lost to Empire Maker and then defeated him in the Kentucky Derby. And also White Abarrio, yes, I think that one's going to be one that we have to watch out for his speed figure. Now, again, as we continue along, we're just going to spend 25 minutes tonight. I kind of just want to get people thinking about the Derby. Then I'll have you leave your questions. We'll come back with kind of an Ask Me Anything session later on this week. But I think that's going to be a key factor. Now, Cyberknife, a lot of people are throwing out this horse. I think the Arkansas Derby was a slow speed figure, but I do like the fact that overall, he was involved in a very fast pace early on. There was a scrum of 5 horses if you watch the very beginning of that race, and Cyberknife could have got very rank, and then he split between horses. There was a horse right outside of him, and then there was a horse at the rail, and he was able to get in between them, and a lot of times a lightly raced horse will not do that. Now, we've got actually a mismark here. This is supposed to be the Japan runner, Crown Pride. It says Mo Donegal. That's actually Crown Pride. He comes over from the UAE Derby. I think the last 16 runners in the UAE Derby, none of them have finished in the money. And we've had some pretty big flops as well coming over there. Did want to show you the Brisnet speed figure progression. I am a big believer of watching the patterns of the speed figures. So what you've got here is the horse on the left-hand side, and then the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is their speed figure in their first race, their second race, their third race, and then all the way through their 6th race. Now, Taiba debuted with a 100, and then in his second race, he went to a 111. But you got to remember, Taiba did not run until he was a 3-year-old in March of his 3-year-old year. So that's why when you look at a horse like Epicenter, his 82 is a little bit lower, but he's been in training for a longer period. Also with Epicenter, he's ran in December, January, February, March, and now he's going to be going into April. And then, of course, if he goes through the Triple Crown, you could be seeing him in some of the other races. Of course, Mo Donegal, that big 111, that was a jump from a 92. That's a very big jump. So part of me is kind of questioning that. You know, I've got to do some more research on that race on that day. What do you think? Are you a big fan of that 111 speed figure of Mo Donegal? Are you going to rely on a lot of your handicapping dollars going on Mo Donegal based on that one speed figure? Siggy has a question. Summer is tomorrow. Set the pace in the UAE Derby. Can he be a pace factor in the Derby? So that is Siggy Mendoza's question. I think he can be. A lot of times, though, the long straightaway at the beginning and no run up, the horses that show speed in UAE do not come back to America and show speed. So that's my big problem with Summer is Tomorrow. I think he's going to be sitting more third or fourth at the quarter mile pole. So question here, Ronnie Bravo, Mo Donegal might bounce. Well, if the last speed figure is a 111, if I'm convinced that that's a 111 from a 92, then I think he might bounce. But I'm not sure yet. I don't know. Some of the other speed figure makers don't have that speed figure as big as what Brisnet is coming up. Now you got Taiba. He's 2 for 2. Can he overcome the curse of Leonidas, the horse to win the Kentucky Derby in only his third lifetime start? We've got the curse of Apollo. We've got the curse of Leonidas. Horse racing needs more curses. That's what it's all about here, folks. Put your question if you have another question. Also, you know, when you look at some of the other factors here, who will be favored? A lot of talk on social media. Who's going to be favored in the Kentucky Derby, Epicenter or Zandon? Kind of give me your thoughts on that. I'm leaning towards Epicenter, but I think Taiba is getting a lot of wagering support overseas. Now, Simplification, my big comment on him is, what do you do with his running lines? Simplification went wire to wire in the Mucho Macho Man. Then he broke slow in the Holy Bull and came wide and ran late down the lane when he lost to White Barrio. Then he was dueled on fast fractions in the Florida Derby, fading late. Now, I think with Classic Causeway in there again, he doesn't want to get in a pace battle with Classic Causeway, but he also doesn't want to lay too far back. So as Siggy mentioned, what do you do with a horse like Summer is Tomorrow, and will that speed from the UAE when there's not a lot of other speed? Sometimes fractions doesn't mean they're going to be on the lead. Some horses just like to be on the lead. I think Epicenter is one of those type of horses. Now, I can't prove that. I guess we'll see. Don't forget, the post position draw is going to be Monday, May 3rd. That's when we draw all of the Derby runners, post positions, and that's where we're going to make our final selections next week. Continuing on with our horse by horse preview, want to talk about Smile Happy. You know, a lot of people, you know, one of the things that Ken McPeek does better than a lot of trainers, he has them in better shape. So physically, they're just his 2 big races as a 2-year-old going a route of ground, the big win at Churchill Downs, the big win of Keeneland. He just may have been more physically developed. He ran a nice race and the Risen Star. I don't think he was all out. I thought he got an easier trip than Zandon in that race. Then the last time he made a mid-race move, and Zandon just put on a nice big effort there to defeat him. And I think Smile Happy could still have a room for improvement. Now, Classic Causeway, he got dueled into the ground last time out by Simplification, and he faded all the way back. But you got to remember, Tampa Bay Derby, wire to wire. He went wire to wire in the Sam F. Davis. The original plan was to go to the Bluegrass, then go to train up to the Kentucky Derby. They threw in that extra race, but a lot of times the horses can bounce back. But in recent years, horses that run out of the money and they're prepped before the Derby usually do not do well. So Classic Causeway, I do think he's got some speed. I do think he could be a factor later on this year in some of the big races, but I don't know if he has the raw speed of an Epicenter or a Messier or even a Simplification on some of the pace figures. You don't see them. Bill W is asking, you know what? I did hear Oaks on Monday, Derby on Tuesday. That could be possible. We will see. I'll have to confirm that. Good point there. Last year, that is what they did. But in other years, they've also drawn the Oaks on Monday and the Derby on Tuesday. So we'll find out for sure on that. The other big factor is going to be Zandon versus Mo Donegal. The 2 big finishers in their most recent prep. You had Mo Donegal finishing a sub 24 quarter. You had Zandon in under a 24 quarter. Mo Donegal saved ground at the rail coming into the turn. Zandon was able to get out of trouble and kind of save ground as well, and then went out for the drive. Flavian Prat rode Zandon for the first time in that race. Joel Rosario has ridden Epicenter to his most recent win. He rode Mo Donegal in the Wood Memorial, And then he rode Zandon in Zandon's maiden win last year as a 2-year-old. So he's one of the few jockeys that probably has a very good gauge on all 3 of these horses. Now, Tawnyport, he went second to Tiz the Bomb in the Spiral Stakes, which is now the John Battaglia. Then he came back and won the Lexington Stakes. Brad Cox is going to have 3 runners in the race. He's also got Zozos, and he's also got Cyberknife. Last year, he had Mandaloon and Essential Quality in the Kentucky Derby. So we'll see what type of things that you can get out of Brad Cox this year. But I think that's going to factor a little bit into my handicapping factor. So now Freedom says if Epicenter is positioned in that 5 to 8 post position, the fight is over. Shots are fired by Freedom. He says Epicenter gets a 5 to 8 post, turn out the lights, lock up the women and children, because it's going to be all Epicenter. That is according to Freedom. So yes, Joel Rosario, the truth. They can't handle the truth. He won a Derby in 2013 with Orb. Going to look for another victory here. The thing about Joel Rosario, he's riding pretty sharp right now. And I'll take him on most horses. Remember, he's riding Echo Zulu in the Oaks on Friday, the day before the Derby. And of course, they are going to have that Oaks Derby double wager this year. Who's my long shot? Ronnie Bravo. Well, you asked. That's Tiz the Bomb. A horse that is over 10 to 1 that I think can run in the money is Tiz the Bomb. I'm not worried at all going synthetic to dirt. I'm going to throw out that Holy Bull race. He's got a grade 1 win on the turf. He's got a fast speed figure in his last race that all the speed figure makers have pretty high. So that is my long shot. Do want to talk about Barber Road. Barber Road is one of those horses that he's been picking up the pieces coming in. But my fear with Barber Road is the Arkansas races was the weakest division to me of all the prep races combined. By that, I mean the Risen Star and the Louisiana Derby had stronger performances than the Rebel Stakes, the Smarty Jones, and the Arkansas Derby. Now, I do think the Arkansas Derby was probably right on par with the Florida Derby, even though the speed figure came a little bit slower than White Barrios. I do think Cyberknife, his race on the undercard of the Louisiana Derby, was a very fast race. And if you throw out his LeCompte, I like the fact that LeCompte is a throwout. Now he's got 6 lifetime races, and he can come in here off a couple of wins. And a lot of horses don't have multiple wins in this year's Derby, and they're being forced to do a little bit too much too soon. Now, Un Ojo, the one-eyed horse, can he be the next Patch? We will see on that one. And, you know, with Un Ojo, you know, the last race, he came back with some scars, they said, and his face was cut up and things like that. They are going to run him. You know, I do think he runs better on a sloppy track. His Withers was a strong race, but I just think his speed figures are a little bit on the slow side for a race like this. Now, Messier could be the first Canadian bred to win since Sonny's Halo. And of course, Messier, named after a hockey star. He's a Canadian bred. And of course, Messier, that big speed figure, one of the top 5 buyer speed figures back in February, he had 2 months off. What do you think about that 2-month layoff? Do you think maybe he can still improve here coming off? He had to kind of chase Forbidden Kingdom, and then Taiba was able to run him down from behind. And Johnny Loro says Zandon is working and looking incredible. All right, Johnny Loro telling us the straight up facts here. Yes, I was very impressed with his workout, 4 furlong workout. I really like the long gallop out on that one. So Messier, I think he can improve a little bit from his last race. What about Zozos? Got only 3 lifetime races, ran second to Epicenter. Monster win at Oaklawn Park by 10 lengths. That was as a non-favorite. A horse shipped in from Santa Anita, took all the money, and it was Zozos leading away and pulling away for the big victory for trainer Brad Cox. My theory with Zozos is I don't think he's a front runner. A lot of times until horses have 2 or 3 races, we don't really know their running style. He ran 6 furlongs in his debut. He came a little bit off the pace in his allowance win, and then he had to go to that lead because if nobody went to the lead, then Epicenter was just going to walk the dog on the front end. Another question, is it an advantage for the horses that arrive at Churchill Downs early over those that ship in too close to the race? I do think it is an advantage. Now, I can't statistically prove this. Maybe that's one of those things I'll have to start doing a little research on. But over the years, normally you wanted a couple of workouts at Churchill Downs. Then in recent years, it's become one workout. There's been some horses that have shipped the week of the race that have done okay. It seems like horses from Gulfstream that have shipped the week of the race haven't done as well. Todd Pletcher and some of the other trainers have normally shipped their horses at least with one workout over that surface. So that scares me a little bit with White Abarrio, but it is a good question. It looks like John Moeller, he's sticking with Simplification. Nothing wrong with that, John. I think you're going to get a price on him, probably about 15 or 16 to 1. And of course, he's got some speed figures that are right there. Now, also, you've got your best long shot. Who is your best long shot for the Derby? Of course, Siggy Mendoza already asked about Summer is Tomorrow. We're going to take, with Summer is Tomorrow, again, the UAE connection has just not been a very strong. Now, here's one of the things. I do like Crown Pride coming over a long time before the race. A lot of the other UAE Derby runners waited until 2 weeks before the race. Then they had to spend a week in quarantine, and they didn't even get out till Tuesday or Wednesday to gallop before the Derby. Crown Pride has got a couple of workouts over the track. He's already shipped. He's put on weight, whereas Summer is Tomorrow is going to come late, and he's going to have to do that late quarantine. So Summer is Tomorrow is probably one of my first tosses overall. Now, Charge It, Todd Pletcher sends this one. Charge It ran second. He didn't run really a straight line. He did draft in behind White Abarrio. Part of me, I like the fact that he was able to kind of draft in behind White Abarrio. I like the fact that he was running late. He was coming out of a maiden special weight straight into a grade 1. So lots of question marks for Charge It, but he is by Tappet with 4 Belmont Stakes winners. And of course, can Tappet get his first Kentucky Derby winner? He's running out of time. And Chris Kep says, "'Tis the bomb is the long shot." And Dry O says Epicenter dosage index of 0.6 and the center of distribution is very low. Yes, dosage is a way of calculating for 3-year-olds, especially this time of the year, their distance aptitude. So their chances of going 10 furlongs carrying 126 pounds. Now, the guy that invented dosage is kind of given up on keeping up with the Shefty race sires. I do wish somebody would kind of pick that up, because with a lot of these sires like Gunrunner and Not This Time, these are their first crops to hit the races. And we really don't know from that first generation how they're going to extrapolate a dosage figure out of them. But good point on the dosage on Epicenter, because that could be very strong. Now, Mo Donegal, good question, Charles B. His speed figure, big race the last time around. He closed ground. He closed ground in the Holy Bull Stakes after breaking a little bit slow. Now, I think he's the type of horse that he does not have tactical speed. He wants a faster pace or he wants a contested pace. I'm not sure we're going to get that in the Kentucky Derby. It seems like some people are projecting a little bit above average pace. Timeform US already has their early pace projector out, and they're projecting a little bit above average pace. I don't know. It just seems like on a lot of these big races in recent years, we're not getting the pace we're used to seeing. When you look at my big questions, as we start to kind of take some more questions from you, the listener, if you've got a question, make sure to put that in the comments. Epicenter, was the last race his true running style? Can he come from 3rd or 4th, or is he better on the front end? I do like the fact he went 1 mile and 3/16, but he's been running every month since November, and training since November, running since December. He ran in the Gunrunner. He ran in the LeCompte. He ran in the Risen Star. That's a tough series. He's going to have to hold his form and now go to Churchill Downs. The California horses, small fields, the same group of horses running against one another. I think everybody kind of knew Forbidden Kingdom wasn't ever going to go 1 1/8 or 1 1/4 miles. So Messier had the big race back in February, but that speed figure was done on a day when both he came back to lose and then Adari Manor came back to lose. Both of them got huge speed figures. I'm starting to question not the speed figure that day, but there may have been a little bit of a track bias because both those horses won by big margins. And I'm always a little bit leery when a horse wins by a large margin, when you get multiple horses winning by large margins and then they don't come back and replicate that form. Again, what we're trying to do is just kind of get some early thoughts for you to go back to the past performances. Then we come back, we look at the top 10, 12 contenders. Then we have another live stream. We start planning our bets. So that's kind of the schedule here. I've also got videos up already on my top 10 Kentucky Derby contenders, my pace analysis, the final furlong. You can see how to calculate that. And also we're going to be doing a look at some trainers and jockeys and all of that here in the next week. Even with Chris says, even with early pace, you can't be more than 5 lengths back heading into the turn at Churchill. The days of the deep closers are done in the Derby. I love the days of the deep closers. I remember Unbridled, and you had Strike the Gold, and you had Giacomo, and you had other horses rallying late, even a horse like Invisible Ink scraping some paint and coming in at long odds. Yes, I think speed is more prevalent. Part of that is because these horses have more days between races, and they're just fresh. The days of these horses coming in with a lot of races and over raced, and they just don't replicate that form, are gone. And then also a lot of the trainers and the best bred horses are going to a limited amount of trainers, and horses just aren't working out as much. So they're firing their best race and 100 speed figures in the Derby. Orb, another one. Yes, he's another one that came from off the pace, and you do have to keep an eye at this. So that's a look. Live stream number 1. We're on for another minute here. If you've got a quick question, the Derby Bandit, shots are fired. He flat out says a closer will win this year. Book it. Put it in the books, according to the Derby Bandit. Let's see what Willie has to say. Winner, Epicenter, Echo Zulu. He's a big Joel Rosario fan. Remember, Willie, they can't handle the truth in the Kentucky Derby if Epicenter wins it. And that is the world's biggest Joel Rosario fan. That's going to do it for our first live stream. If you have a question, leave a comment, and we're going to do another live stream later on this week. And we're going to get deeper into handicapping, the pace, and stuff like that as we get closer after these final workouts are done. We got another comment. Messier, Johnny V goes to the lead, doesn't look back. Yes, we have seen it before. In fact, Johnny V has gone to the lead with Always Dreaming for Todd Pletcher. He went to the lead with Medina Spirit. And could he do it again with Messier? According to Steve, that could possibly happen again. And if early voting goes, yes, I do believe that. If early voting goes, then all of a sudden we've got early voting. Then you've got Classic Causeway, and you've got Simplification, maybe Epicenter. That could maybe get the fast pace for, you've got the big factor from Derby Bandit guaranteeing a closer wins this year. That's going to do it. Remember, this is all a lot of fun. Enjoy the handicapping. Don't get too locked into your pick. What I'm trying to do here is just give you different reasons why you can pick a horse. At the end of the day, you're going to have some fun. You're going to put down some wagers. You're going to drink some mint juleps. And remember, as D. Wayne Lucas says, people have opinions. Horses have the facts. Until we meet again, pace makes the race.